विकार सियावर रामचंद्र पद जय शरणम। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बलधाम अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नाम। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन वरण विराज सुबेस कानन कुंडल कुंचित केस। हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराज कंधे मूंज जनेऊ साज। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यामान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाय सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हरषि उर लाए।
When we'll enter awareness together or meditation, we'll listen to this beautiful chant.
सहस बदन तुमरो जस गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद शारद सहिता ईसा। यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहांते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहांते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीना राम मिलाय राजपद दीना। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। युग सहस्र योजन पर भानु लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेले मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगमानुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लाहे तुम्हारे शरण तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज समारो आपे तीनों लोक हांकते कांपे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा जिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोए अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों युग परताप तुम्हारा हे प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता असबर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुबर पुर जाए जहाँ जन्म हरि भाग्य कहाई।
Aham. 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 Ah. Let's stay with our eyes closed for a little while. It's a great mantra, aham, ahama, and it's found both in Tibetan tantras and also in Shaivistic tantras. Many years ago, I had the good fortune, just remember this as we were hearing it, of interviewing Swami Muktananda for Voices magazine with Alex Red Mountain. And we went there as psychologists. And I asked him the question about depression. And what does it suggest about that? And he says, this mantra, aham, I am. And this particular mantra, like many mantras, take you beyond the mind into the base of pure awareness. Aham, ah. Aham. It's a heart essence mantra, sitting right in the center of the heart. So we've been exploring embodiment, embodying of awareness. And the path of embodiment, which is different from the path of dissociation. And to each their own, huh? Embodiment, or embodying, isn't really looking at the body objectively or externally. It's the inner experience. Where the sense of embodiment or embodying takes place. You have a very beautiful and strong body, super body, and in this sense, you may not be embodied at all. Embodying is not internalization, like internalizing this scene or that event. It's not representational whatsoever. Merleau-Ponty describes it, the great phenomenologist from Belgium, like one of these primary words, like that is very hard to define, but you get a sense of it, through experience. Embodying awareness, embodying spaciousness, embodying light, embodying the energy. Embodying the field, embodying being, tautologies actually. Embodying knowingness, wisdom. In the ancient Vedas, the rishis were called often seers, S-E-E-R-S. And there's great emphasis on seeing, visions, light. But they also were described as rishis. And vibration, the vibrational ones, they vibrated. They pulsated. Undulation. Life force. Chi. Shakti. Embodying. Both in phenomenology and some of the ancient Shaivites and Dzogchen. But understand that by embodying this awareness, this awakening of awareness, often coming about through touch or gaze, proximity, resonance, then this awareness, this base, this manifestation of primordial awareness as us, would infuse our mind, infuse the functions of the mind, infuse feelings or affects, infuse sensation, infuse memory, infuse smell, infuse sight. That through the our very eyes of our body, we can actually experience and see the light. And through the skin, sensations, we can feel the primordial energy. Through the ears, we can hear the subtle sounds of everything. And they understood. It was quite close. It was quite natural. It was embodying, bringing forth, experiencing that which is already there. This primordial oneness, this world, this earth, out of which everything and anything arises. They would at times understand there were two corresponding, intertwining movements. And some psychoanalysts also do. Winnicott, for one. There's the unfolding of oneness and the unfolding of differentiation, separation. There was not one path from symbiosis to differentiation, but from the very beginning, beginning of our life, these two modes were there: oneness and differentiation, oneness and separateness. And the trick, maybe the best word is not to trick, is to be in both at the same time. And in that way, we become full human beings. This embodiment. They also understood in counterposition to dissociative paths, that everything, the body itself, the embodiment, is the alchemical mixture. And the body itself, with flesh and bones, thoughts and feelings, love, hate, the whole range, and the subtle manifestations of winds and channels and chakras, that this mixture is actually the greatest gift for realization of being itself. Much more powerful than the subtle forms, the deva forms. That this flesh, this earth, all this stuff, intensity, felt sense, is actually the mixture for direct realization. Shalama Tarchin was speaking about this again on Saturday morning. That's why the human body embodiment is so precious and so cool. To be embodying and embodying everything. In the embodying paths, the actual goal, the start, the aspiration, is not being free from suffering. It just ain't. The other path, free from suffering, dissociativeness. So dissociation is a really wonderful talent to have in certain situations and times. But once we get into it, it's hard to leave it. And then we start the path of embodying step by step. And this path of embodiment, the paths of the flesh, Shar, understands that suffering is involved in humanness and the mystic human life. And if we're totally bent on avoiding suffering, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. It's not the path of cessation, which is a path of death. It actually is the path of desire. Liberation through desire. Liberation through being here. Like that child we saw last week singing. It's just totally there. Completely there. And with a bit of the innocence of the child being present. And experiencing through sensation the bliss of samadhi, and experiencing through the world the bliss of samadhi states. It's a challenging path. But actually, it's fun. It's fun. It also is suffering. Like love. as we embody awareness, last week we touched upon, I think it was last week, the embodiment of the deities, huh? It's not really the visualization, that fantasies, but the desire to embody that dimension of our own awareness, which actually manifests us, the Sambhogakaya realm, the archetypical realm, to actually embody the archetypes in our flesh, in our life, and in the subtle dimensions of ourself. Which means, as Tsongkhapa described, touching the energies, the vibrations, the pulsations, the winds, the channels, and most of all, the fire element. You following what I'm saying? Say yes if you are. Say no if you're not. This embodiment of the light, space. Which is also interesting in these traditions. That knowing is a feeling quality. And they make a distinction between feeling and emotion. For instance, I might have a feeling of the situation within myself and with this situation with you right now. I have a certain feeling tone. But it's not necessarily an emotion. It's like when Tanya was chanting, invoking aham. A certain tone, a knowingness, a feeling arose. You might have emotions around it, but it's not essentially an emotion. Say yes if that makes sense to you. So knowing is feeling. Bhava, feeling. There's certain knowing of gnosis that there's no feeling, just knowing. There's another knowing, Rongshengpa, as a feeling, a sense. It's like the felt sense, where I have a felt sense of a taste, thoughts, conglomerations of affectiveness, and then a deeper felt sense, which is a felt sense of being itself, being a being, aham, in a situation, in the world, as the world. In these traditions, aham, I'm manifested through the world. Potentiality, Dharmakaya, Shiva, whatever word you want, manifest the archetypical energies, the elements first, and energies, and then us, flesh, dogs, cats, cars, buildings. But we manifest from the earth, the elements. And the path is one of embracing, not necessarily liking, definitely not passive, like cows, but embracing, embodying what's unfolding as it's happening. And the amazing thing, as we do that, as we become embodying in this life and what is being presented to us. And often why the tantras use the metaphor of charnel ground and palace, huh? Both extremes, huh? Which is in everyone's life. That we begin to experience Vajrakamara. Begin to experience deathless life. Begin to experience this awareness that's manifesting throughout all these circumstances, this awareness, embodied, to use their words, unborn and undying. If you believe this sort of thing means nothing, but to experience that state, timeless awareness in time, embodying the experience of timeless awareness in time. And then at that point, when that happens, you actually drop away from being locked in to sheer materialism. I'm not talking about goodieism, but at that point, through the experience of timeless awareness in time, then you are in the deathless state. Because the yogis understand in that place, it is the same exact state as death, timeless awareness, ongoing continuity of beingness, life after life, and death after death. A lot of times, of course, in the West, we like to stop at that point. It's just a little too far to go here. So we foreclose it. Just foreclose it. And we love awareness. We like awareness. But the nowness of it is very limited. The nowness of awareness is limited. Just like Padmasambhava said in his induction to meditation, don't focus on the past. All the analysts go out of business. You should know it, but don't live in it. Because if you live in the past, you'll probably die there too. Not been here yet. Want to keep moving. Or if we focus on the future, retirement. Calculating. Then you're not here either. Your whole life is oriented to the future. But this present, in the present, is where timeless awareness resides. Spanda, the self-arising awareness, is the spanda. It rises, It's tactile. It's a felt sense. It's kinesthetic. It's kinesthetic. Kinesis. And it's, I always trouble with this word, synesthetic. You feel it. You see it. You hear it. All in oneness. It's not fragmented. Embodied awareness, embodied subjectivity, and this embodiment, just about time, is not just embodied here, but actually it's embodying the room. And as it embodies the room, as you embody the room, you then embody the house. And then as you embody the house, you embody the block. They actually used to measure people's capacity of how strong the field was. So they say, like the realized people, like Buddhas and that, they don't really, they embody the whole thing. So they're there, here and there, none local. They're there. Do you understand that? A lot of times we try and mix the paths, these little trips. The methods, they're just methods, a word for methods. We like to mix this and that, you know? I really liked last week a lot. I especially liked what Dan was sharing, where he was describing the experience, pulsating and vibrating. He's not here, it's on the internet, describing the appearances appearing, then dissolving into emptiness and nothingness. And then they would appear again and dissolving, huh? He was gazing, and they appear. The whole thing appears, then disappears. It appears again, and then what's going on? I also loved Helen's description of the experience. With her partner, her companion, of entering the non-dual state, but from essence. Sometimes we can enter the non-dual state a little bit in the field, but from essence. And the essences meet as a bindu, as a point. And from within that point, everything arises again. So, with that understanding, let's pair up. But I'd like you to pair up. And you can move, but stay in the state you're in. We're going to stay somewhat serious, or sort of serious, but not too serious. But we're not going to fool around right now. Just stay in your awareness state. And if you're brand new, you should be with someone who's been here for a long time. So new people who should work with people who've been around here. Because that makes it fast. Here you go. You can right here if you want. Yeah, great, good. Want a pillow? Would you like a pillow, hon? Yeah. So you could stay. Great. Great. Huh? Okay, great. Fantastic. Glad you're here. So we'll focus with each other. But we're first of all going to focus, we're going to suspend our mind a little bit, the epoche. But also Patanjali has the same thing, huh? The vriddis stop. And then awareness arrives. Oh, okay. You can great. There we go. Yeah, you can. You need a pillow, huh? There we go. Okay. So we want to suspend the mind a little bit. However you do that. Sometimes you can just breathe up into your head. And you suspend the breath. Then slowly it opens. There's no one way. And then, or gazing, or just doing it. Just a bit of a thought-free state. And then you allow from that everything to arise. Thoughts and feelings and sensations in that place. So let's extend to our companion today, whoever that might be, from inside to inside. And we'll also extend to the whole room. Let's extend to the whole room. all those human beings, all those vibrations, pulsations, aliveness, life force, eros, eros. Feel the resonance, the attunement. Feel your perception extending non-conceptually. Just like we can project our mind all over the place, especially what's not best in each other, we have the power of projecting our own awareness, which is actually the self, the experienced sense of self. The experienced sense of self, as we learn to experience its extension, actually becomes the world itself and the field of being itself. Because awareness is the field of being in its knowingness. Then, one person can do nothing and the other person can be more active, if you won't mind, and if you wouldn't mind touching the person who's your companion, but you're going to touch him through the field as the field. There's a touch that's just a chunk of meat, and there's a touch of the energy, the chi, the light that moves from one being to another. And all this is natural. And you don't have to have talks like this. And you can extend it from your heart. I always love the picture of the Sistine Chapel, where the fingers touch, huh? The same scenario. As you're touching the person, if you wouldn't mind bringing forth more energy in yourself, so you can go down into the earth and have it come up through the centers, activating the energy in your body, the chi, the shakti, up through the navel, heart, palate of the mouth, eyes, behind your eyes. And then you lean it into the person in front of you. The amazing thing about embodying awareness is you can actually practice what the Buddhists call the paramita. You actually can practice generosity. Not just bits and biddles, but you actually practicing vast generosity in the extension of the light, the life force, awareness, essence. So we're trying to go further now that you can actually feel the essence, the heart drop, and releasing that. That's what all the great healers do too, right? They don't release their energy, they release the energy, or the light. If you want, if you're not quite present yet, you can extend the energy from the back of your head to your forehead, from the back of your head to the palate of your mouth, and the back of your head to the mouth itself. You can also extend from the back of your head to your throat, the back of your head to your heart, and the back of your head to your lower back. Muladhara. That will also bring you into stillness and movement at the same time. And then I'd like you, if you wouldn't mind, taking one more step where you've activated the channel, the column. Can you feel the column? Say yes if you can. You extend the column into the person, inside to inside. Sometimes you can lean forward as a gesture. That movement is just a gesture, like a magical gesture. And you lean the column of energy, your column, that light force. At the moment of death, that moment, you're in timeless awareness, and you are the column. You are the column of light. And the column, which is a configuration, a manifestation of the Nirlaic field. So even there's an embodiment. And in this place, in this state, as Dr. Yen Shin, the great Qigong master, would say, or the phenomenologists describe, desire and Merleau-Ponty from the heart, or the wish from the heart essence. I like seeing these same things in different traditions. It gives me confidence. Then you hold the wish. Not in your mind. Then it's just but in the power of the heart essence, right in the center of the chest, where awareness is located. In that potentiality, that space of potential. The Dharmakaya, to use that language. And you hold the wish for yourself and for all sentient beings. The word sentient being is a great word, isn't it? For some reason I just used to think of rats and ants. But a sentient being is consciousness embodied. That's the true meaning of a sentient being. It's not just a sensation, but sentient beings are consciousness embodied. And as the embodiment of the awareness that gives the aliveness and the knowingness of that creature according to its nature. So now, do you feel at this moment that you're in non-duality within duality? Are you in oneness? And you can talk about it, but you have to talk from the place. If you leave the place, then it's a commentary, like the news. But can you speak from the place, in the state you're in, about what? Are you touching timelessness in time? Or experiencing oneness, non-duality, with difference? There's a me, and there's a you, and we're indivisible. And I know it's hard to speak, but learning to integrate these functions allows us to be in this state throughout our life, throughout our day. Without integrating the functions, you have to sit in a cushion and be fed. Till you have to go to the bathroom. Sometimes the yogis describe liberation through touch, and they describe it as a touch of the sky coming through the flesh. The touch of the sky like. You have to go, Kate? Okay. You got a cold? Did you get it from Sharon?
Talk to her about that.
See you later. and it, and actually, the tantrics describe not that there's no suffering, but that bliss helps overcome suffering. Not that there's no suffering, not the process of cessation, but in the suffering, the arising of bliss. Frees us. So we're going to pose it. We're going to pause in a few moments. And I, again, also liked last week a lot because I loved what Patricia said, and she gave us that poem. So as a evocation, we have her give us this poem again, please. Okay, we're going to pay attention.
When hearing gives way to listening, one's awareness increases. The will is aroused, and all aspects of our being are involved at the same time.
Who says that?
Alfred Tomatis,
Oh, great, that's right.
ear, nose, and throat French physician who has developed a lot of alternative treatments for everything from autism to hearing issues to...
Is he still alive?
No.
Let's see. I was just wondering. So let's just wander around here. Let's see. Briefly, would you mind describing your experience? You were chatting there. What happened? Just briefly, though. We're all going to listen to... When we hear in the field, we're going to hear it simultaneously And that will help us hold that experience in ourselves.
I experienced Juliet's inner energy entering with my energy. Together we went out into the stars and we became like these nebulae, and we just went out further and further and further. And I became very aware of the fact that the whole thing, that timelessness is a process, that it's timeless, but it's also in time, and there's no way that it can be just timeless without time, because it's the whole process of everything going out and then becoming pure potentiality, and then becoming concrete and changing forms, and without that without the in time, timeless becomes inert. It can't be experienced.
You really are pushing us here, Steve. But for some reason, Lama Tarjan's talk coming, that you never have emptiness without form. I heard that. And you never have form without the emptiness. They are completely in oneness. And that's when you articulate that experience, that challenging understanding. And yes.
As we were attempting to talk about this, it's a process that's not a process. It's time and timelessness. And the more we attempted to speak, the more it became apparent that this expanse of time and timelessness is unspeakable.
Thank you so much. You're new here.
Yes.
You're a visitor. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. The experience was very, it was a very dynamic space that I was occupying with my partner, but it was not tense and it was not frantic. It was a very high energy state that felt very, and when I was working, it was very easy to ignore preoccupations or diverting thoughts, because the sensation was of wholeness was very strong.
I love the word sensation. The sensation. And the sensation is not just a scratch. It's not it's like, it is literally the sensation that's broader than a particular sense. That sensation. Like the sense of. Thank you. Let's see over here. I'll go to the other side this time. Okay. Okay. Yes. Clear.
When Skip and I extended our columns to each other, there was a real swirling quality to it that we both felt, and by having that, it really planted us in what we were doing, and it allowed the sensation of having a body to kind of fly apart without losing myself or diminishing. And from there, it was just this amazing place to be.
Totally cool. That the rising of the vortex, opening and expanding. Because the vortex is our body at a certain level. The subtle body is a vortex. And then it starts, that other side of the subtle vortex is flesh. So it's stretching and opening the flesh. What was it like for you?
So when you extended the column, I wanted to just be completely receptive.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a kinesthetic but not quite kinesthetic sensation or felt sense of his column meeting mine, and the two coming together, interpenetrating in a certain way. Then we both had the vortex, an absolute groundedness, and the physical body just expanding infinitely.
Expanded. Yes. Bliss of somebody.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question. Stay in your state if you don't mind. From the place you're in, and you use the word receptive to what was being given,
Mm-hmm.
can you help us understand the difference between receptivity and passivity? If you feel that at this moment, as you explore your feelings on this receptivity and passivity.
So to do that, I'm having to go passive.
Okay?
So in the passivity, the energy disappears. Even though in the receptivity, it is still completely relational. And in the passivity, it's, I always mispronounce that. It's just that one.
That helps us enormously. That helps all of us enormously, completely.
In the passivity, it's like it's foreclosed to expansion.
Wow, yes.
And in the receptivity, there's this, I'd almost put it like inherent capacity for openness.
Yes. Say it again, please. You're really so.
In the
excellent.
receptivity, there's I'm going back into an inherent capacity for openness, an opening.
Receptivity, the inherent is for openness.
And passivity is like no action, and receptivity is very active, actually.
Very active.
I hope you guys are taking that in. It's really useful.
As Skip was talking about that, I realized that he was sort of on the other side of the experience that I was having, which was as the active individual. There came a point when I felt the essential need to open up to receptivity in the act, while being active, and to let the touching of her touch me back. And when that happened, there was just such a bigger experience with the energy and light and the presence of the experience.
That's so balancing and so cool. We'll just sit for a minute just listening to what they told us and feeling that in our own body. Many of us get caught in like passivity because it's God's will or whoever's will, someone's will. And it easily becomes a form of the master-slave relationship. One more time. Really appreciate you guys sharing this today. So we're going to breathe a little bit and we're going to go back to our companion. If you wouldn't mind entering again, because you're really in it still, and enter a little deeper or further. That knowingness, that entering into. And if you wouldn't mind cultivating, in light of the paramita, to use that language of generosity, a particular affect that you like, a particular affective state. You can do that. And then, would you, in generosity, transmit, give that to the person who you're with? So do not go into your mind too much. A little bit of your mind is okay, but mostly you're going deeper into the awareness. Pausing, thought-free state. It arises naturally. You have to be just opening receptively. And then, as it arises, as it manifests, the little alchemical process is taking place. And then, when it has some form to it, some taste, you can transmit it. You can give it. When we're giving this, it's not really an emotion. I use the word affect, but it's not like an emotion. It's not reactive. There's no drivenness. And you can just which is also great. None of this takes a long time, because it's all really relatively immediate. It sort of happens, or it doesn't happen. So would you mind discussing with each other what you experienced, what you felt you gave, and what the person felt what was received, and vice versa? And we can do that for a little while. But stay in the awareness state. And you want to speak from the awareness state. You want the art of speaking from the place of experience. And the place of experience will be awareness.
Okay, we're going to end up in about a minute. So, were you touched by the gift? Hello? So, here we are. We'll just share our experience of being touched by the gift. Abhinagunta writes about touch as liberation. Various touches, like the gift. Abiding at the end of the principle of the Shakti, being most subtle, most subtle is a certain touch, which the yogis always long for. And at the limit of this touch, right beyond that boundary of it, there arises this recollection, the pure sky of consciousness. And to experience this is to move in the supreme, sublime. Some poems for the Shaivites also. Shiva is light, and the Shakti is touch. So, would someone mind describing if they felt a gift? Do you guys mind describing here? Welcome. Is this whatever happened briefly?
It felt like there were a lot of stages, and I became aware of, as soon as entering awareness, my differentiated self changed into a kind of different being from my usual. It became a better being. It became kind of like Buddha. Like I could feel my eyes going down, and like this kind of loving wish that came from my heart, like a very condensed beam, straight heart. And then at some point it opened wider, like a big field of light this way, like with horizontal. And then it transformed again into these like beads of like drops of light, like everywhere.
Beautifully described. We know you're here today, a visitor.
Yeah, I'm a visitor, and we were discussing that I was trying to send fire towards her, and we were thinking that maybe this opening up that she felt was my fire being received.
Someone want to raise their hand if they experienced a particular gift? Anybody? Yes. Excuse me. Hi, Dawn. What happened?
The first one, when it finished, I was just filled with incredible joy and bliss. So then when we did the sending in affect, I sent joy. And Marla sent the same thing to me when we finished. And so we just ended feeling just bliss and joy. It was just perfect. You know, it just worked really well. Yes.
I'd like for you to know that you have this capacity to invoke this quality in yourself and others. I'd like for you to know this, that you actually have this.
I didn't think I did. But thinking about that, I just... we're both sitting here just smiling and happy, and it's great. I want to be like this all the time because it's so wonderful.
What's it like for you to be sustaining this, learning to sustain? Because you've got it, so now you're practicing sustaining it. What's it like to practice sustaining it?
It's hard. Because that's the right answer.
That's right. It's a true answer, right?
Yeah. Because it feels so wonderful right now.
We'll make it easier for you. We'll make it easier.
Connecting with other people more and doing this.
Connecting, right. Solipsistically, it's not easy.
No.
Mm-hmm. And solipsistically, we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the dilemma with all this stuff, I should talk in the microphone. The dilemma with all this stuff, it has to do with postures. So say I'm a solipsistic posture, and I can feel it solipsistically. But then I have to move, or if I only think I can do this when I have a certain posture, literally a physical posture. So we're constantly having to integrate world The bliss of samadhi, bliss of the world, all right? I was once told by a lama, really and truly, if I left and went to the mountains, something could really happen to me, like go to India. You know, I thought about it, but I said, nah. Because it can happen here. I know it's here. Where else can I be other than here? I'm only here.
Well, Rudy, as you asked on that question about the sustaining, I noticed that my whole energy shifted, and I could all of a sudden feel that contracted, fearful place that comes over. And then I began to contemplate that, and I thought, well, that's it. It's that fear of loss. And then the extension to the other is what cuts through that contracted state.
You know, that's really, would you say the fear of loss?
Yeah, whether it's the fear of the loss of the joy or the, you know, I mean, if I really go with that, I can go to the most primitive experience of that, of course. And yet in the now, that isn't necessary anymore.
What's it like to know that it's actually not as determined as it once was, as it necessarily
It's fabulous. It's fabulous. I mean, that distinction between then and now is such a useful distinction.
Well, listening to her, we called that state the slave. The slave. And once I said that, it was just like so much freedom. Because whenever I get in that contracted, I want to be a slave, right? And then you just allow. Yeah. And I couldn't say like, I'm going to go into joy. I couldn't do that. I had to allow it to be there. So, man, we obliterated the slave, and it felt really good.
Yes, please, yes.
I love Marilyn's description of this because we really did come to a lot of essential understandings and obliteration of the master-slave stuff. And another thing that came up for me that worked around that was that I allowed myself, was it last week we did the state of the Devas and Dakinis with Amma, bringing that in, and I entered at that point into such an exquisite state, and how I accessed it was by remembering what it was like to be hugged by Amma, and then realizing that I could be where Amma was, and allow that, not in the same way, but you had the experience. Yes. Yes, and I didn't allow the master-slave dynamic, which is all in my head anyway, of she's got it, I haven't got it. They've got it, I don't have it. It was like, if I can experience it, I have it. All of us have the ability. And when I was able to flip that around, yeah, it's there is no more master-slave in the head, and there's no more waiting around for someone else to do it for you. There's no more waiting around. It's like, well, I'm not feeling it. Nobody's offering it to me. Well, why don't I offer it to them?
Beautifully said. Beautiful. What would you think what you just said? What would you think? Deprivation is a queasy thing, isn't it? It's really queasy. Here we go. Would you mind sharing your experience, please?
Not at all. When Rudy said, take an emotion and start to build that, or a sensation, Robin right away started just really strongly this light, this bright, big, glorious opening expanse of light. And she was saying, it sort of felt like love, and then it was like just this flower reaching out and opening up, and for me it felt just like joy, and it was so strong in Robin that I just started receiving it, because I hadn't even had a minute to have a thought about it, and so I was just receiving it, getting bigger and more expansive, and what came out of me was just sort of like a little kind of sparkling thread that would kind of surround this big expanse of energy, just kind of igniting, you know, sort of like fireworks or sparklers, you know. And so it would just kind of gave it this phosphorescence for me. And we were talking, Robin had experienced my energy as just kind of comforting. And I was feeling like, yeah, when you really just receive someone, you know, that is kind of just comforting. You're just present to what they have to offer. So.
Thank you. Robin, want to share your experience?
Sure. It's it was a comfort that I felt back, but it wasn't like an embrace or a comfort because something was wrong or a comfort because something was right. It just was a awareness. And talking after, just like what everyone else was kind of saying, bits and pieces, I felt like I often block both ways, probably the giving and the receiving, because of what the slave, this fear, this. So that's very eye-opening or body-opening or channel-opening.
I like those phrases. Body opening, eye opening, channel opening. So let's focus and meditate together just for a few minutes before we end. We're just going to go into awareness for a little while. We're going to rest. And we're meditating right now. Excuse me. We're going to consider, just for whatever is happening, that every experience, every sensation, every affect, the feeling of knowingness itself, every experience is the manifestation of divinity, or Shiva, or Shakti, or primordial awareness. Every experience, every action, every moment, everything is the manifestation of primordial awareness, divinity animating us. Like Stan's experience that he described last week. There's all this appearance, all this experience, everything imaginable, everything possible. Pretty much each person's life. And then there's disappearance. And then there's reappearing. Even every experience, just right now. Every experience. And that is liberation. And experiencing the different dimensions, huh? Same. Pure, vast, luminous darkness potentiality. Unmanifest, unbound. No thoughts. Energy. Moonlight light. Vortexes. Pulsation. Forms. Sounds. The person you've been sitting with and your experience, no matter what it is, no matter what it is. That's why the great tantric masters make this statement that is so challenging. Get beyond your mind. Get beyond right and wrong. What? Get beyond good and evil. What? Get beyond better and best. What? Get beyond truth and falsity. What? Then you will live life after life, death after death, in the luminous self. So we're going to start ending up now. We're going to rub our hands together, place them on our heart. We're going to end a little early right now because I'd like to meet with the people who are online in the everyday meditations right now. Just the people who are actually online in the meditations right now. Then next week, everybody else who's not, we can have a chat too. But right now, I just want to meet the people who, in the past 3 months, have been online. Not every day, but more than 10 seconds. Yeah. 3 times? 3 times is fine, yes. Huh? No, just people who practice online at 6:30 to 9 to 10 to 7, whatever that is, coming online. This is for the meditation. This is for the actual live meditation. I just want to talk to those guys, not the archives. No, you should sleep. That's okay. Thank you, guys. So you guys are going to go upstairs now, okay? If you don't mind. Hasta la vista. Thank you, guys. Thank you. See you later. So the people who are concerned right now, who are online and nervous. Okay. But only if you actually are online. Not if you want to be online. No. If you are online. Then go. Get the upstairs. You're free at last. Thank God. Liberation, huh? It's true. You know that, right? Skillful means are actually slavery in its own form. Okay, who's here? It is freedom. It is freedom. Do you meditate every day? You meditate? You're on more than you've been on the past months? Okay, great. Okay, will you guys go upstairs, please? A private meeting. A nervous group. But I'm glad. Huh? Oh, that should be offline.
But they're online. Yeah, that's true.